Hey, it's Kendrick with Technology Interpreters, and today we're here with part 5 of the complete series on SentinelOne. We're going through every aspect, and so we're still in the Sentinel section, so let's go ahead and change over. And by the way, I got Pierre from the Cybersecurity Mentorship Program hanging out. If you are interested in being mentored in cybersecurity, I do have a program, and I don't have one of those like you just pack a whole bunch of people in there. It's literally hands-on, me walking you through pretty much learning everything that I do on a daily basis. If that's of interest to you, then please don't forget to send a message, and the link to the mentorship program is in the description of the video. So with that being said, so what we were looking at is we were looking at the Sentinel section. So I've got video 1 is the overview, video 2 is the dashboard, video 3 is Ranger, video 4 is Sentinels up until this point. And so now we're going to start right here on policies. I'm going to go through and tell you what all these different things mean. There may be a few that I don't know because I haven't really used that much, but anyway, I'll give you everything I got. So let's go ahead and get started. So what happens is you have policies that can be assigned to each group. Okay, so you see each one of these groups, the policy can be different, and I can click change configuration here, and it allows me, I can change the policy for the overall organization or these subgroups in here, and I can kind of break the inheritance and change the policy there. What that allows me to do is it allows me to be able to kind of like, if I say, for instance, maybe when things first get installed, SentinelOne, I don't necessarily want to scan and take action because it may like quarantine files and stuff like that. So typically what we do is we start off with what's called a detect policy. And so we'll start, and this is exactly what we do at work. We want it in detect mode. We don't want it in protect, which is going to kill, remediate, and roll back. We don't want that just yet. Because when we're onboarding machines into the environment, we want to make sure that they get scanned, and we want to know if it has malware, and then we can make the decision. But if we don't detect any malware, then we can go ahead and move it into another section that has all the policies turned on to actually protect the machine, which means to kill, quarantine, remediate, and roll back. So remember those 4 things: kill, quarantine, remediate, and roll back. Those are very, very important when it comes to understanding SentinelOne. And then containment, we have a containment feature, which means you can automatically disconnect it from the network. And this is something I showed in the previous video. You can actually like manually do that per machine, but upon detection, you can block the agent's network connections besides the link to the management console. What that does is, once again, I'll explain it, is that it allows you, if there's a detection, it will automatically isolate it from talking to anything but SentinelOne. So I can still act on it. I can remote connect to it using a reverse like remote shell, and I can run PowerShell or shell script or whatever to manipulate things, delete files, change registry keys, all kind of things. I can still work on it, but it can't talk or affect anything else. Okay, let's look at the detection engines. Now, I told you that the way SentinelOne works, it doesn't scan your whole hard drive every day. That takes up resources and stuff like that. It doesn't work like this. It's very intelligent. And so what it does is it has all these different detection engines, okay? And so you can see, I'll go through this. So if you disable a detection engine, alerts from engines are suppressed, but the engine might still work in the background. Okay, so just giving you a heads up. We got basically, and this is the foundation of how SentinelOne works. It takes action on write, which means it uses static AI reputation. So the artificial intelligence, based on a reputation of something it's seen before, right? Or how things act normally, is able to determine if it's bad, and then when you're writing to the hard drive of the computer, it takes action and interrogates that write to the hard drive to see if it's something that it needs to take care of. All right, and then the same thing on execute. Then what you want to do in this one is, say for instance, you are launching a file, you open like Microsoft Edge or something like that. That's the on execute command, and what that means essentially is that when that's executed, SentinelOne will then take action. So that saves it from like constantly doing the scan every day like the old antivirus products used to do. So let's go through the different engines. You got reputation, an engine that uses SentinelOne Cloud to make sure no known malicious files are written to the disk or executed. This cannot be disabled, okay? Static AI, a preventive static AI engine that scans for malicious files. So think about this is file-based, not scripts, file-based. So when you see a detection in a console, and if it says static AI engine, you know that this is a physical file on the machine that is scanned. So it supports portable execution, PE files. For Windows agents 2.7 and other, the engine runs scans upon file execution. Once again, those two foundations upon file execution, in addition to when the files are written to the disk. So both of these things right here, okay, those two actions. All right, so let's look at the behavioral AI. So engine that implements advanced machine learning. This engine detects malicious activities in real time when processes execute. Processes, keyword. See how we're breaking this down? Processes, files. Okay, got it. All right, and then this one's like says that this is malicious files written. This is suspicious file written. Okay, so and then let's go to documents and scripts. The behavior AI engine focuses on all types of documents and script. So this one to me says specifically, so a document is a file, right? But this one, I guess maybe is specifically to like define threats when it comes to like maybe Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those type of things, macros, and then scripts and stuff like that, PowerShell, shell script, those type of executions. Lateral movement, a behavior engine that detects attacks initiated by remote devices, okay? In addition to that, behavior engine focused on exploits and file-less malware attack attempts, such as web-related and command exploits. And then here we have your typical, this isn't just about most product, potentially PUP. They call them PUPs, PUAs, or potentially unwanted programs is what they used to call it. Now it's potentially unwanted applications here. But it's a static AI engine on macOS devices that inspects applications that are not malicious but are considered unsuitable for business networks. So once again, you can choose to disable these. Once again, you can turn it on and off, right? And then application control. Okay, this is engine to make sure that only executables from the original container image run in a container. So this is talking about Docker containers, right? So Kubernetes that orchestrate Docker containers. Whole different discussion, something I'm still working to get more understanding of Kubernetes and Docker, but basically Docker containers are certain scripts. And the way I had somebody from Tenable, shout out to the Tenable engineer I was talking to the other day. This is how he explained containers. So if you want to know about containers, let me give you what he told me. He said that a good example of what a Docker container is just a group of script. Like it's not a whole program running on a machine. It's literally a small script. So for instance, when you're watching Netflix and you click the pause button, that pause button functionality itself is a container. And so what that means is that instead of like you having to spin up this whole program and have all this big, large program running continuously, you can save lots of resources and money by putting that one function in it, because it's only being executed when people are pausing the video. Or there's another Docker container when people fast forward the video that controls that. So basically by segregating that out, instead of having a computer, having some kind of program up on the back end that's like doing all these things and constantly running and lots of servers have to be up, you just put all of these individual functions in Docker containers, and those scripts execute and they do one specific thing. You basically divide the entire Netflix app, every action on that remote control and more, into separate containers. So I hope that helps you, because if you don't know anything about Docker containers, then you need to start learning now. Okay, all right, so let's get into the agent part of this, okay? Security checks, anti-tamper. This is what you want turned on, because anti-tamper stops people from uninstalling it. One of the big issues that we had a long time ago with these products is that they didn't have anti-tamper, and so malware would actually uninstall the program, would uninstall the security software. So now they're smarter now, so they implemented safeguards to stop it. So do not allow end users or malware to manipulate, uninstall, or disable the agent. Recommended to keep on. So you definitely want that on. Snapshots. When Windows agents keep a volume shadow copy, VSS, volume shadow copy snapshots for rollback. So what happens, in these commands up here, it says kill, quarantine, remediate, and roll back. So how does SentinelOne roll back the changes? You have this malware, it comes on, it tries to mess up the computer, it tries to take ownership of the computer and all this stuff. How does SentinelOne roll that back? Well, it's actually taking snapshots. Now, I'm not sure how big these snapshots are, but my understanding is that there are several snapshots that it takes. And then what happens is if your machine gets infected or something, you just roll back to the snapshot, which means it's taking a picture of it while it's at a certain point in time. And when you roll back, you simply restore that computer back to the state of when you originally took the snapshot. Logging, okay, save logs for troubleshooting support, disable. If you disable, you can free up some disk space. Recommend to keep on. This is important because if you ever have trouble with SentinelOne, it's one of those programs that doesn't make a lot of noise. It doesn't cause a lot of problems. But when you do have issues, you have issues. So you want the logging on, because that's sometimes going to be you get out of jail free card. Scan new agents. This is what I think I mentioned in a previous video, that when you first install SentinelOne, you're going to run a full disk scan that one time. So, and it's never going to do it. As far as I know, it's never going to do a full disk scan again unless you manually tell it to in the future. But from the point of it doing that full disk scan, it then will simply do read and executes, right? Back up to here. Upon write and execute, not read and execute. I said that incorrectly. Okay, so let's get to the agent UI. Show the agent UI and the tray icon on endpoints. So if you look down here, you'll see like right there, there's my SentinelOne agent down there by the time. Okay, so if we don't want it, we can actually choose to hide this. People will never know it's on. Like if you're an administrator, you may have a compelling reason not to show users this, but what they can do is if you have it in a tray when you're troubleshooting, this actually comes in handy because users can come on here, they can click on it, they can know that they're secure. They can also see what's quarantined. So you can see we've had like files here that are quarantined for whatever reasons, right? So look at that, coupons, you know, that's an older file that's detected and stuff like that. So anyway, we got all these different things that we keep agent details and stuff like that. All right. And then in addition to that, let's see, as far as, and once again, we're talking about the user interface. She'll pop up notifications. So when threats and mitigations take place, it'll pop up a little message, let the user know, hey, you know, we found something on your machine, and they'll probably call a help desk or call somebody about it. Block devices when the device is blocked. So this says that device control. So you plug in that USB or that Bluetooth device and it blocks it, it'll display a little message. Suspicious threats will be shown, right? And you saw we got the separate categories: end user threats or successful mitigation. So threats and mitigation include suspicious. So this is probably less fidelity, less certain that this is a threat, but you can't really tell. Okay, and then it says include warnings, and so it enables, say if enabled, agent function warnings will be shown in the agent UIs. So show warning in case of agent errors. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Showing the UI, so it shows the last 30 days worth of events in the user interface, which I just showed you there. And then here, show these menu items in the UI. So we show the blocked devices, quarantine, and we just simply saw that, right? So if you look at my menu here, like I'm literally going through quarantined files right there, blocked devices right there. And then what's the other category? Contact support. So I could actually put a contact support here and put some custom information here so that they will know exactly who to call if there's a detection. I think that's very handy. Something definitely to use. We don't have deep visibility enabled, so I can't really show it to you here, but we do have the settings and the policy. So collect this deep visibility data. So we're telling it all the things you connect. So if you reverse engineer, you look at this a different way, say, how does deep visibility work? Well, it collects process, DNS, registry keys, command scripts, driver loads, file, IP, scheduled tasks, cross processes, URLs, login. I'm reading this for people who might actually be listening to the video. So I'll read through all these. Behavior indicators, name pipes. And then over here, it looks like, what's the collect? Oh, URL. So it tells what it is. So URLs is basically collected. Visited sites require SentinelOne browser extension to work. Okay, so you can actually hover over these. And that's a good thing. SentinelOne is really good about giving you details on all of these. And then you have this event type configuration, which goes in even deeper. And I can tell you, like, I've not even looked at this because we do have deep visibility, but we don't use it a lot because we're not necessarily, we're more into the mitigation and stopping threats, but occasionally we do, but not really that it required us to be in deep visibility, maybe once or twice. Okay. So, but anyway, process creation. So you got all these different things, right? All these different metrics you can turn on and off. Right? So event type configuration, process creation, file creation. And these are very helpful because essentially this is mimicking like Windows processes. Okay. File creation, file deletion, file modification, lots of stuff. Okay. File rename, file scans, you got URLs, DNS, IP connect, IP listen. IP connect, like there's a lot of times, you know, like you may have something that's trying to connect, but it doesn't establish a session. And if you study Nina networking, so you know what sessions are, log in, log out. Look at the registry keys, create, import, create value. So creating registry keys, creating and deleting registry values. Okay, registry delete, renaming registry keys, exporting registry keys. These are all actions that you may take that may be part of malware. So you can see SentinelOne gets pretty deep. All right, tasks. Okay, so you can schedule tasks. So one of the things you can do is like when malware gets on a machine, maybe I'm going to set up something where I'll install malware on the machine and it'll schedule a task. So if it ever deletes, you ever find the malware and get rid of, well, the scheduled task will run once a month and reinstall the malware. Or maybe once a month, the malware will reach out to a command and control server using the scheduled task. So that's why you really want to monitor scheduled tasks to kind of see when they're created, updated, deleted, triggered, and started. Behavior indicators, like, I don't know if I got much on that. But just bottom line, I guess that's some metric that you can measure. Use command scripts, of course, with deep visibility. You're watching all kind of scripts. Once again, I wish I had access to deep visibility to show you this. But cross process, so duplicate process handle, remote threat creation. And this is where I always tell people all the time, in order to be a security person, you have to be good. A good security person is one who has mastered just about every area of IT. You know what I'm saying? IT support, building servers, troubleshooting processes, installing applications, removing applications, onboarding, provisioning, like the whole nine, right? Knowing these things is pretty important when it comes to securing another company, because if you don't understand those type of things, how in the world are you going to be wise enough or have the knowledge to secure those things? Okay. Duplicated, like I said, so these are all related to processes, right? Name pipes. I'm not the best with name pipes, okay, but we can monitor those. So name pipe connection and creations and driver loads. So once again, that's a lot of stuff there. And then when we get down here, data masking, okay, we get a little question mark. So when enabled, pass of zip files, PDF, and Office document will be masked. So you can mask this in the console. So if I was doing some of this stuff, maybe in some of these videos, I'll turn some of these masking feature on to make sure that you don't see certain things. But once again, this seems to be related to deep visibility. So when we're searching through that deep visibility data and doing these queries to find information, it's going to mask these things, right? Okay. And then focus file monitoring. Let's see what that focus file monitoring is. File collection on binaries and files suspected to contain active content. This can significantly improve network bandwidth consumption. Okay. All right. So cool. So that's good. Automatically install deep visibility browser extension. We can actually do that. So when we install the agent, it'll actually force that on the user. And then this is one of the features we use heavily, automatic decommission, because what happens is you have environments that sometimes they don't really, and I would say this, most companies, when they install or a new user comes to the company, they issue them a computer. And most of the time, at least it will get the security software installed. A lot of times it doesn't. And then when the employee leaves, they turn the device in and they stick the device on a shelf, and it's never going to be turned on until they get a new employee. And sometimes it may never be turned on, but the computer sits there. And so it just sits in your SentinelOne console, which you're paying for that device forever. Okay. Cause it's never going to, say for instance, it's one of those devices, the hard drive got destroyed or the motherboard, and they just turned it off, but you never took it out the console. And if you don't have this decommissioning, which means basically it's going to hide it from the interface after 21 days. That's what this does. We actually use this pretty heavily, because if not, it gets crazy. You just get your computers to start to build up an interface infinitely, and you just never can get rid of it. And it's hard to kind of figure out what you're trying to secure, because you got so many old devices and that are not even active. So you turn this on to automatically decommission. Once again, it doesn't uninstall the software because it can't. But decommission simply hides it in an interface, but you can always refer back to it. And if they ever pull that device out the closet, sign it to a new user, power it back on, it immediately checks back into SentinelOne and it recommissions itself by showing up an interface. And then remote shell, if you don't know about that, I actually showed remote shell in the last video, that is part 4, showed how that works. This is where you turn it on the policy. So if I turn that off, then I would, in the previous video, I would not have been able to remote into that device and run PowerShell and shell script commands. Finally, we get off that page. We get off the policy page. That's a lot. The custom rules. All right, I don't have access to the star custom rules. Unfortunately, to say you don't have permission. I don't know that. I haven't used that. Perhaps I don't have it in my work console either. I can't remember, but it's something we haven't had to use. Block list. I'm going to go ahead and let's clear this up. Don't want to. Once again, that's all stuff from our MSP. That's all the hashes that they have blocked. And so once again, they're able to, at this global level, they're able to put policies in there that propagate all the way down through all the customers they have. And then since their customers are other security companies like me, who have customers, right? I technically have just a mentorship program. So, but other people have other companies that they're servicing. And so these policies that you saw, all those hashes, propagate down to everybody that's in the console, or just like a tree structure, any tree structure of any kind. So block list is where I can go in and I click new. And if I have a file hash, you know what I'm saying, I can actually block it on Linux, Mac, and Windows based on file hashes, okay? So it uses SHA-1. If you don't know what SHA is, look it up. It's a hashing method, hashing algorithm. And then you have a description of what you put here. So at the same time, you have your exclusion. So there are two sides of the same coin, as people say. So if I do have a program, once again, let's go ahead and undo that. I would love to go ahead and details about how the exclusions actually look up. I may do a video. Leave a comment if you're watching this point. You want me to do on exclusions? I can show you how those work. Pretty simple, but basically you can exclude based on hash, path, certificate, file type, you know, exe, doc file, browser, etc. So these are the 5 things that you can actually create exclusion. And you do exclusions because it's something that SentinelOne detects, but you want SentinelOne to leave it alone because it's legitimate. So you create an exclusion for it, okay? So if you do a hash, then of course you have to do the same thing, the SHA-1. And basically what happens is when SentinelOne does a detection, it'll essentially show that this is the detection, and it'll assign a SHA-1 hash to it. And that's what you can tell to add exclusion. It'll automatically put an exclusion in here because it already knows the hash that it assigned. And it'll sort of like build this rule out dynamically for you, okay? Network control, this is where we basically block USB devices and Bluetooth and USB devices, okay? And so the thing is, it's a little bit trickier because you got a lot of different type of devices. So you have to give it a rule name, choose your operating system, etc. Action, allow, or block. And then when you get into this, I wish I had a few in here. But when you get into, you actually have to choose the type of device, you know, choose Bluetooth or USB drive. And then there are different classes of these devices. So let's see if I can go to the next page and show you. All right, okay, so you can kind of see here protocols. Well, let's make sure I'm on the right place. No, that's device. This is network control. I'm sorry, this is firewall related. Forgive me. That's device control I was talking about. This is firewall related. So that's why you got the rules name based on the OS and stuff like that. And so this allows me to be able to come through and set up firewall blocking rules. And so that's why you're seeing protocols, direction, you know, by directions, or inbound, outbound, you know, local traffic. You can put the side location, which you see like 192.168.5.1/24. That /24 is what they call side notation. You can do an IP range, etc. So you get the point. You got all these different things that you can create firewall blocking rules and integrate this with the firewall. And the thing is, y'all gonna have an opportunity. I'm going to be doing one of these integrations in the future. And then you have network quarantine. Let's see if it lets you enable specific network connections to quarantine endpoints. Network quarantine cuts off all communication step between the agent servers and the management console. All right, and let's see, the new capability lets you add connections to be applied to quarantine endpoints. So if I try to create a rule here, I actually can't do it. I would do this for y'all so y'all can see this, but it seems like what we can do is based on based on a network range, I can say isolate all these machines. Now, why would this be handy, right? If I'm reading this correctly, then that seems like if I'm in a situation where malware has attacked the 3rd floor of my building, and I know the entire IP subnet range for that 3rd floor, maybe I isolate the entire 3rd floor, because if not, you think about it, I got to do it endpoint by endpoint. That's not good. So network quarantine allows me to be able to sign a network or based on a network subnet and to be able to quarantine, okay? All right, and let's just make sure that reads white. Yep, specific network communication. I would like to be able to verify that, which, you know, by creating one, but once again, I can't necessarily see that. And then there's a firewall rule right there. So we already talked about that. So let's talk a little bit about device control. And device control, this is what I was talking about. You get a chance to block Bluetooth and USB devices. This is absolutely recommended, not implemented enough, okay? I cannot stress enough how much this feature is overlooked and not utilized, okay? There are many times that, and just about every corporation should be doing this. You don't want people to be having, at this point in the age of Office 365 and Google Workspace, you want to force them to put their documents inside your Google Workspace, inside your Office 365 environment, where it can be controlled, where you're looking for data like that's being leaked out. You don't want somebody to be able to just put like a 2 terabyte, 8 terabyte hard drive in and take all of your intellectual property out of the company. It's really stupid that companies do not implement this feature. But I can tell you, out of all the companies I work with, I very seldom see anybody working with this feature. So this is something that we recommend, and we're working towards getting to do it. But honestly, it's just not common for most companies at this point. Only truly the tech savvy. Upgrade policy. Okay, so basically this is what allows, so the SentinelOne agent doesn't upgrade automatically. And so what you do, you have to click on it and you do agent upgrade, and you have to set these maintenance windows. So you see what we got here. We got, first of all, let's talk about this, the number of concurrent downloads. That means, so say for instance, if I got 1,000 machines, if I turn this on and it's currently already set, so I can change this policy, right? But I don't want to download on my network connection at my corporate office or my office. I don't want all 500 machines to upgrade at the same time, because that literally could pull down my network connection, right? So maybe I only allow 100 concurrent downloads at a time, or maybe I only allow 25 to make sure that I'm respectful of network bandwidth. And there are probably other use cases for this one also. As you see, a lot of these things say they inherit from the top level. That's that tree level. Inherit simply means that these policies are set higher in the console. Remember, I told you this path here. And so it's basically like receiving the settings from above. So you have to break the inheritance by clicking change policy, which means that from this point and below, everything below this and at this level, we'll get a new set of policies. And so you can set up your maintenance window, which means that when you do an agent upgrade, the agents will not upgrade unless they're within a certain period of time. And maybe this time you set from like 6 p.m. at night to 2 a.m. So that means I issue the command to upgrade these agents, but they're not going to do anything until they're actually within the maintenance window. Okay. And then group info, if I'm not mistaken, so group info, this is going to be information related to this individual group. I'll show the group because I don't think it'll show the site ID. All right, so I'll show you. I don't mind showing you this group token because I can regenerate this. Okay, so what this group token is, and this is actually good. So manual group ID. So the site has an identifier. So if I clicked on this site, my whole tenant right here, technology interpreters, it has a site ID. And so what this means is that when I'm installing the agent, I can use this group identifier. This one also has a group identifier, and I can use the group identifier to have the agent install. You can see it's changing. It's subtle changes right there. Watch if you see how. So it didn't look like it changed, but it really is. So if I want all the devices I install to go into the active protection immediately, I'll install it, and then when prompted for the key or when I'm using the script, I'll use this group ID, and it'll install it directly in this group. Or the top level group, if I use the site ID, that's the one for everything, and it just puts it in the default. Or if I want it to be installed specifically in this group, I will also use the group identifier. Okay, so let's see, group endpoints. Looks like I can click on here. It just takes me back to the machine right here because it's actually in this group. And so that's pretty straightforward. We got group policy. It shows you can view the list of exclusions for that group, because exclusions can be set at the site level at the very top. They can be set higher here, and once again propagate down, or they can be set in each individual group. So, and we do this when I'm testing. So a good example is, I had a customer who had USB headsets that were locking up and like blue screening machines and stuff like that. So we got the policy from SentinelOne to put in an exclusion, and we put the exclusion in, we put the machines in the group. We made a new group called like headset testing or something like that. Put the exclusion in for that group, and then put the devices in there. And once we confirmed that everything worked, and it didn't work the first time, so we had to make some changes. But once we confirmed that it was working, then we moved that policy to the top level for the entire company to benefit, and we were able to solve their headset problem. So once again, I think we just finished another section. That's a lot of talking, 29 straight minutes of talking about SentinelOne. If this has been helpful, then please drop a like on the video. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm giving you the truth. Everybody else has got you chasing certifications and chasing these myths, and everybody's taking your money. I'm literally showing you the same tool that many thousands of companies are using around the world. And this is a top 5 product, like literally probably top 3 in the world right now. You're seeing it on my channel. So subscribe. Don't forget to leave me some comments. I would love to hear some feedback on these videos. Let me know what you think. I got some cooler stuff coming up in the future. But anyway, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in part 6. Thanks for watching.